keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Let's talk about the gold rush. It's time to talk about the big guys, the guys who get after the quarterback. There's a lot of free agents right here. A lot of guys that the 49ers are going to need to decide if they want to bring back, if Chris Kentavious thinks he could develop somebody else. But yeah, here comes the long list of guys, and they're very important to this 49ers defense. So Alex, let's get into this.
Look, there's a lot of names, and there's a lot of things to talk about with these names, because I don't know if you can necessarily bring all of them back, but I would love to bring all of them back. I don't think I want a single name on this list to go. But I do think there's a couple guys who may be expendable. Let's talk about it, though. Let's figure this thing out. Let's take a look at this thing. This is the conclusion of the free agent specials for the 49ers, so make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Hit the like button so you don't miss any more free agent content that's going to be coming up, because there is going to be a bunch. You don't want to miss draft prep. None of that. Easiest way to not miss it, hit that notification bell after you subscribe, because then you're notified for all of the videos that come out on this channel. And now, Ant, let's jump over to the gold rush. This is a big topic of discussion. The Niners don't have a lot of cap space necessarily at the moment, but once you free up Jimmy Garoppolo, that number is going to become a lot bigger. There's a lot of names just here that you want to bring back, and I know that I want to bring back. Let's start with someone who looked like was going to have a pretty big year early on in the season for the 49ers. We saw him at training camp. He was looking really well. Maurice Hurst got hurt, got injured, missed a lot of time, and then during that time while he's off, the Niners are able to go out and bring in Charles Omenihu. Samson Ebukam continues his development. They make the shift to Eric Armstead on the interior, and Maurice Hurst goes from guy that was going to be in the rotation and we were expecting to pay big dividends for this team to someone who can't get onto the football field because of how well DJ's playing on the inside. Armstead's playing on the inside. The rotation with Kevin Givens and Kentavious Street. Is there just no room for Maurice Hurst?
There might not be. I mean, not for the amount of money that he's going to want to get. He played for $1 million this year, and the reason he played for $1 million is he was betting on himself, playing in Chris Kentavious' defense, that he was going to be able to optimize his value. I think that him not getting back on the field and them sticking with that 9-man rotation that didn't include him means he's kind of on the outside looking in. I think they liked him as a pass rusher, but he's not as good in the run stopping area. So you know what you're going to get there. He's a 3 technique. And that's what they were moving Armstead inside for. So if the plan moving forward is to keep Armstead on the interior, you're going to have less opportunities for guys like him. Going out and making the trade for Charles Omenihu shored up that outside with Armstead moving inside, and it could in fact lead you to the fact that Armstead could stay inside. Maybe that's the best situation. Maybe from now on Armstead is going to be one of the best defensive tackles in the league, because I thought that's where he has his most value, and it was very evident in this season. That him moving from the outside, he would go outside and inside on occasion, but just being exclusively inside was better for this 49ers defense, and I think that's what they'll continue to do. But we have other guys, right, that were injured as well, like Javon Kinlaw, that are going to be coming back. So the 49ers do have a lot of interior defensive linemen that are going to be available, and DJ Jones, one of the big ones. And if DJ Jones is one of the guys that ends up moving on, then yeah, Maurice Hurst could come back. But right now, I would say he's on the outside looking in.
I would agree with you on that. Yeah, outside looking in, he played a total of 41 snaps on the season. So didn't play a whole lot, only had 2 tackles in those 41 snaps. Did not see the same type of production from him that we saw from Kevin Givens and Kentavious Street, but a lot of that was because he didn't have the entire season to go out there and get stuff done. He was hurt. He's a young guy. He's still 26. He's going to be 27 here, and I think it's about 4 months is when he's going to turn 27 years old. So he's still a young guy. He still has a lot of potential and a lot of positive things that he could add to this team. But I think the problem for Hurst right now is just that. And there is just not a lot of positive things for him in terms of opportunities with this team because of Javon Kinlaw coming back, looking like he should be healthy for hopefully the first time in his entire career since being in San Francisco, on top of the evolution and not the evolution, but I guess the elevation of Eric Armstead and DJ Jones on the interior. And speaking of DJ Jones, Ant, this is a guy who kind of has to, because look, at the end of the day, if you can't get DJ Jones back, Hurst makes sense. I think over the cap has him evaluated at about $610K is what he's worth, which means he's going to be making the bare minimum if you bring him back. And he's going to be making that like $105 million number roughly is what you would be looking at. But DJ Jones, there was no market for going into last season. And it kind of, it kind of surprised us a little bit because DJ Jones, we both thought going into last season, was a goner. There wasn't any way this guy was going to get brought back. He's too impactful. He's too important. Yeah, he's coming off and dealing with some injuries. Yeah, we get all of that. But at the end of the day, DJ Jones, when he was on the field, we thought showed a lot of things, a lot of positive things. And we thought a team like the Jets, for example, were going to be a team that were going to try and swoop him up. They didn't. The Niners were able to bring him back and take a cap hit of about $3.25 million this year is what it was. You have to bring him back, right? You have to keep this Armstead DJ Jones pairing.
I think so. I think that DJ Jones has a lot of value. The question is, where does Javon Kinlaw fit in that now? Because if you're starting interior defensive line is DJ Jones and Eric Armstead, that means your number one pick from a couple seasons ago is coming in as a rotational piece. And he's an absolute huge guy that you're looking to have that big time improvement and development. But it could be that DJ Jones makes a lot of sense because you haven't seen that from our guy Javon Kinlaw, that he just hasn't showed enough, and you can't trust him to stay healthy. So you need to have this interior defensive line on lock. DJ Jones is that guy. The fact that you paid him over $3 million last year means you can give him a little bit of a pay raise and bring him back. I think that is within reason. I think he's easier to sign than I originally anticipated after seeing what his number was this season, because I think you could give him $5 million and he would come back.
That's what they're over the cap has him valuated at 5.384. I think you could get a little bit of a hometown discount there and find a way to maybe do a 2 or 3 year deal at about that $5 million range would be good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 3-year deal, where it's the base salary is around $5 million, and then they'll just kind of strategically move it around. You have a 49ers defensive line that is going to be right now without DJ Jones accounting for $54 million. That's without any of these free agents signed. The 49ers defensive salary cap is $90 million, or not salary cap, but that's their number. So over half of the money is going to this defensive line. How much more can you put into it? I think a little bit more, because you definitely need to bring back DJ Jones. But Javon Kinlaw is going to have to step up his game at some point. But that would give you a lot more flexibility if at times you could kick Armstead out, kick him inside, just do whatever you needed to do. But it's all predicated on DJ Jones and Javon Kinlaw.
100% predicated on the two of them being able to, number one, what they're going to be doing, what your plan is for Eric Armstead going forward. Is the plan to keep him on the interior? Is the plan to move him around back and forth like we saw? We saw the improvements in the run game area, and I'd be really hard pressed to believe that it's going to be Eric Armstead moving back out to the edge and playing a kind of hybrid edge on base down run situations and pass on the interior. I think he kind of just needs to stay there, and you keep your rotation as it is and with what you're doing there. So look, we'll see. We'll see what they do, but I think you and I both agree DJ Jones around $5 million makes sense. The amount of years, we'll see. He's only 27 right now, so three-year deal puts him into his 30s, puts him right into where that prime is going to be, and then you can reevaluate when the time comes. And it also affords you the flexibility that you can do some extensions down the road if you need to free up some money, or a restructuring going into his second year in order to free up more cap space to take care of the Nick Bosa situation. Like we talked about, though, they've already budgeted for it, so maybe there's already a plan. Maybe the Niners having budgeted for Debo and Bosa means they've already planned which guys are the important pieces to be bringing back. Maybe DJ Jones is one of them. We're going to find out and see. But there's another gentleman, Ant, a restricted free agent, Kentavious Street, that had himself quite a year, definitely improved in certain areas. He's been consistently doing that, but he is a restricted free agent, meaning the Niners can match whatever anyone offers to bring him back to San Francisco if need be. Do you see the market being big for Kentavious Street? And if so, yes or no, will the Niners match it, barring the number being stupidly high?
I don't think there'll be a huge market. I think there could be a market for him as an interior defensive lineman that played for Chris Kasarik, and usually that's good for you. But I don't see the 49ers bringing him back. I thought he struggled against the double team. There were moments where he got pushed off his spot. I think they're ready to move in another direction, and part of that reason is I believe they're going to bring back DJ Jones. They're bringing back DJ Jones, and you already have Javon Kinlaw, and you have Armstead playing on the inside.
It's an up. I think you and I both agree, right? Kinlaw would be an upgrade over Street.
Over Street, and I value a couple of the other free agents that we're going to be talking about later more than Street. I think Street, to me, was one of those last guys that was going to make this football team. I thought he had moments where he flashed, but overall, the talent that we kind of thought we were going to get from him since his injury hasn't been there. I think he's an adequate defensive lineman, but for the 49ers and the amount of money that they put into their defensive line, they need more production. I believe they could actually draft someone and develop them. So I think this could be the end of the line for Kentavious Street. And anything over $1 million, somebody offering him, he's going to be gone. The 49ers won't match it. I think they'll let him roll with that.
And I think you're going to get a team that does it. I think you could see a team like the Jets and Saleh being able to pull that off. You could see a lot of teams, I think, making this move and bringing this guy in as a depth piece. He played 351 snaps, had 3 sacks, 27 tackles on the season. I think this is a situation where most likely Kentavious Street's going to be gone. I don't know if the number is going to be huge, but I agree with you there. If you're losing Kentavious Street and the replacement is Javon Kinlaw, goodbye Kentavious Street. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. I think Kinlaw's upside is definitely better than Street's at this point in time.
Oh, yeah, it's not even close. I mean, Javon Kinlaw, playing with a bad wheel was a better option than Kentavious Street.
He was still starting.
Yeah, Kentavious Street's a freak of nature strength-wise. He's a great dude. But I think you're looking for, this is survival of the fittest on this defensive line. They're just going to continue to get better and better with Chris Kocurek and Darryl Tapp, leading the way. I think Street made a lot of improvements, but I think you want to see an improvement there. The 49ers go with a rotation. I mean, they really do. They rotate all 9 guys. So you want those 9 to be the best that you can be. And with Armstead moving inside, I believe, in the trade for Charles Omenihu, you freed up a little bit of ability to have better players on the interior than you had going into the season.
Agreed with you there, Ant, and that leads us into the next conversation and the next gentleman, which is Kevin Givens. Kevin Givens, an exclusive rights free agent for the San Francisco 49ers. They're the only ones to get to do any sort of negotiating with this gentleman. 24 years of age, Ant, made $685K. You have to imagine that number for the exclusive rights contract is going to be around, $850? Somewhere in there, maybe $750, somewhere along those lines. Very cheap option for the 49ers. He'll only be 25 years old. Kevin Givens, could we see him back?
Yeah, he's coming back.
Okay.
They're going to bring Kevin Givens back.
Because you don't have to put a lot of money?
Well, and you've seen the development. I mean, he's really good against the pass. I mean, his moves that he has, he was getting after the quarterback a little bit this year.
Pressure rate's pretty high.
Yeah, it is. I think as a development guy, somebody that you can look on the interior, he's one of those guys that can come back. And, I mean, think about that. If you're bringing back DJ Jones, Kevin Givens, you have Armstead playing on the inside, and we've talked about Javon Kinlaw. There's 4 guys in the rotation right now that are very good playing on the interior. I think you're excited about that group. So that's why when we were talking about Kentavious Street, I was like, oh, well, there's other guys I'm more excited about. And that Kevin Givens is one of those guys. I just think he's more explosive. He plays better against the double team. And I think he uses his quickness the same way DJ Jones does to beat the double teams at times, where Kentavious Street just tries to defeat it with speed. I mean, with power, I'm sorry.
Tackles for loss this year as well. He finishes the year with 17 tackles. Of those 17, 6 of them are tackles for loss. That's a huge thing. It's a big jump from the previous year in 2020. Here's the crazy part. 2020, same amount of games. Played 13 games in 2020, played 13 in 2021. Played 386 snaps in 2020, 19 total tackles, 1 sack. In the 2021 campaign, played only 230 snaps, basically the same amount of tackles. Didn't have the sack, but his pressure rate goes up, and significantly more tackles for loss. So the numbers correlate with his improvement and his development, and that's going to correlate big for the 49ers because you can keep this guy in the rotation. You're also going to get to pair him up with someone who isn't Kentavious Street. Kevin Givens and Javon Kinlaw is a much different pairing than Kevin Givens and Kentavious Street, and that may end up benefiting Kevin Givens in the long run, as well as with the continual development of Samson Ebukam and Charles Omenihu when they're out there in space, and potentially, and this next gentleman, Jordan Willis, a guy that they traded a 7th-round pick for not too long ago from the New York Football Jets. What are you thinking on this? Is this another one of those guys that you were talking about that you value a little bit more than Kentavious Street and actually makes more sense for the Niners to bring back in?
Yeah, especially if you're leaving Armstead on the inside. You have Bosa, you have Omenihu, you have 2 edge rushers, you have Samson Ebukam. Jordan Willis would be another guy I'd want on the edge. He's good against the run. He plays good against the pass, and I think that he only had half a season basically because he had the suspension from the PEDs. But he's one of those guys that puts his head down and works, and I think he's going to continue to get better. I think that his stat line could go up, the more he plays in the system. But I think if you just kind of think about him playing the full season, he could have had easily 6-7 sacks. From a backup edge rusher, playing out behind Samson Ebukam, to me that sounds really good, and that affords you the opportunity to leave Armstead on the inside.
Agreed, Ant. He finished with 3 sacks this year in 155 snaps, 229 snaps in 2020, and 2.5 sacks. So more production, less snaps, including more tackles as well. This is a guy who's definitely taken a step up. He has definitely improved. He has definitely come a long way. This is a former 3rd-round pick. He's only 26 years old. and he's not going to cost you a whole heck of a lot of money. So we talked about how much more money can you put into this room. He made $660K this last year. That was what he actually walked away with. The cap hit was $566 for the San Francisco 49ers, meaning he ain't going to cost you a whole heck of a lot of money to bring him back into the fold. This just kind of makes sense. On top of the fact that we don't know what D Ford's future is with this football team. Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be a guy that you can get out there and do things with? If he can, great. And if he can't, the Niners at some point in time are going to be able to move off him post June 1 and actually save some money on D Ford.
Yeah, exactly. I think you have to operate and build this team without thoughts of D Ford being on the roster.
Agreed.
You just go ahead and you build the roster, like, hey, these are the guys we want. And then if D Ford happens to be able to play, you're like, okay, this is the cherry on top. Because I don't think you can count on him. Nothing about his situation makes me feel comfortable.
Nope.
But I like the way that the 49ers were playing the rotation and playing these defensive linemen. So the only way that you don't see some of these guys coming back is if they think they can improve or upgrade at the position. And if they do, then they'll do that. Chris Kacerek falls in love with players. He brings them in, and they end up doing a very good job. So I think Jordan Willis is one of those guys that they'd like to bring back. We'll see. We'll see if they can do it. But yeah, the whole D Ford thing is going to be up in the air. And I think D Ford's going to try to give it a run. But I won't be surprised if post June 1, the 49ers don't ultimately release him.
I would agree with you on that, man. It's really hard to believe that he's going to be able to get it done. He's going to be able to stay healthy enough to be able to go. And I think the 49ers, barring him having a 100% clean bill of health, which is just not going to happen, wanting to roll and take that risk and take that chance on him. I just don't see it occurring.
Yeah, I mean, the only way you can do it is if you feel like he's going to be able to give you something during the season. And then in that regard, you just save him for the end of the run. Do you not play him early on in the season? You just have him sit on the bench. You keep him on IR until you get to week 18, and then you bring him back for a playoff run. I don't know. I don't know what the 49ers can do there, but I'm thinking the way that they've been moving and reading the tea leaves, they're moving on from players that they feel are constantly injured. So he could be somebody they move on from. And then again, I talk about Jason Brett like they could probably bring him back. So who knows what they're going to do. I think they like the impact that D Ford can bring because there's not very many speed rushers like him. Even Samson Ebukam, as fast as he is not a speed rusher like D Ford. D Ford is an absolute game changer. They'd love to have him. The problem is he's just never able to be on the field.
Accurate, Ant. Accurate. He hasn't been able to be on the field. He's had a huge impact, but there's another guy who's had a huge impact for the 49ers, and this is why you may see a post-June 1st designation cut for a guy like D Ford, is to make sure that you have capital and have enough room to be able to still make moves during the season, because this gentleman, you want to pay. This third-round pick number 87 overall from the Las Vegas Raiders, thank you, Raiders, is 100% coming back. I don't think there's any world in which the Niners aren't re-signing Arden Key. I think Over the Cap has his number at about $3.6 or $3.8 million is what his valuation is. I think the Niners can find a way to make that work, but Arden Key has to come back to this football team. We have to re-sign this dude.
At $3.8 million, I think you could bring him back. The problem is there going to be a team out there that's going to look at his 8 sacks and be like, you know what? We want to pay this guy big. You got to remember Kerry Hyder, going to Seattle, getting a big contract the 49ers couldn't match. Could somebody come at Arden Key and offer that? The only thing we got going for us is Arden Key really wants to be with the 49ers.
Agreed with you.
He likes being here. He likes the atmosphere. He likes playing with these guys. And I think his numbers would only go up. And if he bets on himself, he has a huge contract in the future. I think $3.8 million would suffice him for now. I think he sees a nice improvement there. And that's a good amount of money for the 49ers. But the good thing about him is he pass rushes from the interior. He pass rushes from the outside. He gives you that flexibility as a hybrid type pass rusher, a lot like Eric Armstead is. I think he would actually develop even more in his role as he works more and more with Kacerek and Darryl Tapp. And I think that, he could blossom into even something more spectacular opposite of Nick Bosa or Eric Armstead on the interior. And that way you don't have to use Javon Kinlaw, DJ Jones in pass rush situations, Kevin Givens, but use these more speed guys, the guys that are better. The Arden Keys you put together with, Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu, and Jordan Willis. And it seems like that's explosive, especially Arden Key and Armstead are the guys that are playing on the interior. That's scary for other teams. So I think that he's somebody they would love to bring back. $3.8 million is probably doable. Anything beyond that, it gets kind of sketchy because you have just allocated so much money to Armstead, Bosa, Ford, Ebukam. These guys are making nearly $49 million between the four of them. That's a lot of money to pay a defensive line. D Ford is the contract that hurts you, because if you had that money, you could definitely bring back Arden Key and definitely bring back the rest of these interior defensive linemen as well. So that's tough. but you could get a restructuring. I mean, yeah, a restructuring of Eric Armstead's contract. That's possible. That could free up over $9 million, probably more than enough to sign all these guys back. So there is money out there. We'll see what they do. An extension to Samson Ebicom could also free up some money.
Definitely can. That is 100% accurate in the case. And Kerry Hyder got about, I think it was about 3 years, $10 million. And the last year that contract's voided, and they pay him almost $1 million to not be on their roster in 2023.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of an odd situation there with the contract with what Seattle did. But if it's 3 years, $10 million, if that's like the biggest number that comes in, Niners are matching that, you think, right?
Yeah, 3 years, $10 million for Arden Key is a lot different than 3 years, 10 for Kerry Hyder, because Hyder was pigeonholed to the outside, but wasn't as athletic on the outside.
He also played 69% of the snaps to put up basically the number of sacks and the same type of production that Arden Key just put up on 374.
Yeah, well, in Arden Key also they found the formula. They moved him to the interior.
Correct.
When he got moved to the interior, that's when his numbers started getting explosive, because Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead ate up so many blockers that Arden Key and Samson Ebicom were winning on one-on-one matchups. And him against a guard is just a complete mismatch. And I think they would like to do that more. So, yeah, he's somebody they're going to want to bring back. Can they hit the cap number or the right number? Hopefully. $3.8 million seems like it's legitimate, but you're talking about a year where they paid DJ Jones $3.4 million. So maybe a $3.4 million, something like that for him. You're already going to be paying probably DJ Jones close to $5 million. So you're allocating a lot of money to this defensive line, which means there's not as much money for Dre Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shaair, or these secondary pieces.
Deebo Samuel. I mean, all of that money, it starts to add up really quick.
Well, if you take the money away if you keep it like this, right now the offense is about $102 million between the 34 players. Once you take Jimmy Garoppolo's contract off, that makes a lot of money for the offense. If you leave that money where Deebo Samuel gets some of it, you have the money, right?
Correct.
The problem is you have other players you have to sign too, which makes it get even more creative. But you're right. There's a lot of restructuring and stuff they could do to free up some cap space. A couple of post-June 1 cuts. They might have to make just to make sure they can build a roster around Trey Lance. But, bringing back this D-line is important.
It's the key. I mean, it's your identity, right? You have not valued the cornerback position as much as some people and some of the fan base wants you to value it, and because of how well this D-line plays. It affords you the luxury and the ability to not have to have Pro Bowl corners on the outside and pay a bunch of money to secondary pieces. You can pay one guy in the secondary a good chunk of cash, and then everyone else around you has to be able to fit into the scheme and fit into the system. They've made that choice. It's Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward is the guy that they decided to pay. So that means the rest of the pieces around have to be able to do the job and can't eat up a lot of cap and can't eat up a bunch of money. And that means you have to keep this D-line playing at a high level. You got to have this rotation. This rotation showed you they can get it done. This rotation can slow down the run with 7 in the box. This rotation can get after the quarterback. What we saw late in the season, how they turned it on, we're hoping that if you can keep this group intact going into next year and add on some things, add in a healthy Javon Kinlaw on top of that, if they can get after the quarterback the way they did late in the season, all season long, we're talking about a potentially different outcome for the 49ers.
And now that we've went through all the positions, we went through the defensive line, are we still paying Emmanuel Moseley $6.2 million?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a lot of money. Yeah. $6.2 million for Emmanuel Moseley is a lot of money. Now, we talked about this, right? They can extend and save about, I think it's like $2 or $3 million.
Yeah, it's close like 2.4, I believe.
Or they can cut and save 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's like $5 million.
I think it's $5 million.
Yeah.
I like Emmanuel Moseley. I love Emmanuel Moseley.
Yeah.
I think E-Man is the man for the job. I don't know if he's the man at $6.5 million.
I know. I mean, you got to think they had a plan, right? When they signed him to that deal last year with a low cap number, in the first season, the second season they were going to move that number down.
The guy, or they're going to move the number down. I think the most logical scenario is an extension, right? You save about $3 million, and you extend some money out, and you kind of know where he is now, and so you can take some of that money, move it over, and then pay him a little bit closer to what he's worth, because $6.5 seems like a lot.
It does. It seems like way too much money to pay Emmanuel Moseley. And as much as I like Emmanuel Moseley, he didn't play at $6.2 million level. That's more than Jason Verrett was going to make, and Jason Verrett was coming off what was a Pro Bowl season in 2020.
He dropped 3 picks against Carson Wentz. If he has all 3 of those picks in that football game, and the Niners roll through that game, then Emmanuel Moseley can keep $6.5 million.
I also am curious what they do in the draft. I mean, they could also draft his replacement.
There are corners available.
If they go high with a draft pick, maybe in the second round, or if they get a higher second round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo, and they could go with a replacement. I still think you have to have a better option than Emmanuel Moseley to move off of him. So barring them finding a better option at a cheaper price, I think it'll be Emmanuel Moseley. But what will the cost be? Could he get extended? But right now, after going through everything and the money that you have to pay to this defensive line, it seems like $6.2 million is just a little bit too much for Emmanuel Moseley.
Agreed with you there, Ant. You have the Emmanuel Moseley contract that's going to get taken a look at this offseason. You have D Ford situation that's definitely going to be looked at. Eric Armstead situation is going to get looked at. Samson Ebukam. Who?
Jimmy Ward.
Jimmy Ward's situation is also going to be looked at because it's $12 million, I believe, is what it is.
Yeah, and I think they could free up like $6 million with a restructure.
With the restructuring of his contract. So, I mean, there's probably 6 or 7 San Francisco 49ers who can get looked at. And Eric Armstead is one of those guys as well that they can look at. A restructure saves them, I think it's close to $8 or $9 million.
It's like close to $10 million. It's over $9 million.
It's close to $10 million. They can also extend him and save 11, and that also saves them money down the road. The problem is that right now his contract is ending right around that age 31 range, which is where you kind of get an idea of, is he topped out? Is there no more juice worth the squeeze in Eric Armstead? Or is he still playing at a high level, in which in that case you can readdress it at that time? Extending him out further than that, you start getting into those early 30s, mid 30 range where production may drop off and you're on the hook for a big portion of that contract and it's harder to move off of him. So the Niners are going to have to really look at it. I think the thing that makes the most sense is a restructuring of his contract as well as Jimmy Ward's to be able to free up some more cap. We're going to see. We're going to see what decisions the 49ers make. There are lots of options, and we're going to cover those in depth in future episodes. So make sure you're subscribed right here to the 49ers Cutback so you don't miss any of the free agency conversations, restructuring conversations, extension conversations, and coming up after this, we got a nice 2-week break here. This will be the last video for the next couple of weeks as we start doing all of our draft prep, getting everything ready. There will be content coming out for channel members, Madden playthroughs over on Patreon, Madden playthroughs as well. You're not going to want to miss any of those types of things. So if you want additional content during this little break period for us, as we tune up for free agency, we tune up for the offseason and get prepared for the draft, make sure you hop over there and support the channel as well. Nice 2 weeks to refuel and re-get ourselves going again and the juice flowing and make sure that we got all our ducks in a row, because the Niners have a lot of questions this offseason, a lot of things that need to get answered, and a lot of decisions to be made.
Yeah, and if this is the first time you've watched one of our free agent videos, go back because we covered every single position. You can go back and watch all of those. Let us know what you think.
Season 1 playlist.
Yeah, let us know what you think about which players can come back, which players you want to see back, and then not just what you want, but which players you think are going to be back because the 49ers are going to bring them back. The one thing I'm going to tell you about our off-season content is we're not going to tell you who the 49ers should get. We're going to tell you who we think they will get. That's the difference. A lot of people want to go out there and become GMs and tell, the 49ers should get this guy, and this guy. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to try to channel what we know about John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, and their scheme and say, no, this is who we think they're going to get. That's the difference. It's less about us and more about the team.
Because, Ant, at the end of the day, we don't make decisions for the team.
Wait, we don't?
No, we don't.
Time,
I'm stunned.
Yeah.
I'm stunned. We don't work for one of those big networks, Ant, where our words have power and can influence.
Big network.
Yeah, big networks. Yeah, Sports Illustrated, big network.
Yeah.
So, look, we're not going to be making decisions for anybody. But what we are trying to do is be a conduit. Understand what this team does, the decisions they like to make, how they like to build football teams, and then take a look at what's available, take a look at what you have coming back or what you have available in cap, and see if we can't point everyone in the right direction. That way, you're not surprised when the Niners sign some no-name guy out of nowhere. You're not surprised when Mapletron turns out to be an absolute stud of a gem and we should have drafted him in the first place.
Well, I could have told you that.
You could have, and actually you did tell everyone that. Look, there's a lot of guys. All last draft, we prepped, did a lot of work, and talked about a lot of guys who fit into the schemes. Guys that John Lynch came out after day 2 of the draft and said we wanted to get this guy and just couldn't. And it was the two of the guys that we were pushing for hard. We've hit on a lot of these guys over the years. The first 2 years of the 49ers Cutback has been us putting some names out there, really getting a feel and getting close with a lot of them and hitting on some of them. So not a surprise for us when some of this stuff happens. We're hoping to hit on even more of these. We're going to go get to work. We're going to go get to work looking at these free agents, taking a look at the guys who are going to be available, taking a look at all the draft possibilities for the San Francisco 49ers, and look at this roster and try and figure out which guys we can surprise you with here in off-season, season 2 for the 49ers Cutback. I'm excited.
Yeah, there's no guarantee we're going to hit on this, but
no, there's not. We could go over.
We're going to make educated guesses, and we're going to have a lot of fun conversation with you, and you're going to want to be here because we're going to do fan-controlled mock drafts, and you want to be a part of the fan-controlled mock draft. Last year was absolutely great. Fans made every single pick. We were just here to kind of, help you guys along the way, comment on who you guys selected. It's a lot of fun. So if you like that kind of thing, make sure you're here. That's going to be coming soon. Not too soon, but when we get closer to the draft area.
And you know what? And I'm gonna tease this now because we're getting fairly close, not fairly close to releasing this and having everything ready, but we definitely have the bare bones in place now. if you want to be more involved in the channel, then become a channel member today. Become a channel member right here on YouTube. Become a Patreon supporter as well, because channel members, you're going to start getting access to certain things and show ideas that we have coming up in the future. You will have first dibs and first go at it. So make sure you support the channel. And if you want to be on here, people have talked about call-in shows, things of that nature. You want to be featured potentially on a show, join the channel. You'll have an opportunity, have a possibility. You will have first dibs when those times come. And I'm really looking forward to all of the plans we have for the off season, because content is going to wrap up. The schedule is going to change in terms of what type of content we put out and produce. But no matter what, it's going to be informative. It's going to be about your San Francisco 49ers. And it's going to be getting everybody ready for this 2022 campaign. Yep,
2022 is here. The offseason is here. Let the monster that is the offseason take over. This is going to be a fun ride. Free agency, draft, training camp, and we'll be at training camp, of course. And then, of course, the final 53, where we try to figure out who's going to be on this roster. And then, boom, game. It's time to start again. There is no offseason for the 49ers.
No offseason for the 49ers. Only 2 weeks off for the 49ers. Cutback, and we'll see you on the next one. Cutback crew and the faithful, enjoy your 2 weeks. We're going to get ourselves prepped and ready. Get yourselves prepped and ready too, and come ready to go with some people you want the 49ers to draft coming out of this 2 week break. We'll catch you after that, and until that time, stay safe.
Remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.